Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Don't Trip Sis. I'm your co-host Ashley Berger, who always has something to say, and I'm here with my other sis.
Hey everyone, it's Ashley Dominique. I'm a handful, but I'm sweet, and I'm here with my sis, and let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Yes. So today we are going to be talking about a very interesting topic that covers all aspects, and it is colorism in the entertainment industry. Now, I know this is a very broad topic. This is a sensitive topic, and some people have heard these conversations. There's movies and documentaries about this, but we really want to get into the depths of it because colorism has been in the African American community, and not just our community, but a lot of other people of color community across the region and across the world. So we want to tap into that and also get into the historical context of how it really started within the African American community, which we all would know would be slavery, okay?
Yeah.
But before we take it back to the 16 and 1700s, let's just talk about how colorism is present in today's society and how I know us millennials grew up seeing it in TV shows, movies, and of course music videos, i.e. video vixens, video girls, and things like that. So Ash, what can you tell us about colorism, and what have been your experiences when you've watched the music videos and watched movies and TV shows?
For me, it dates back to, of course, like TRL, BET, 106 in Park, watching the video vixens, and they always predominantly have a really light, bright woman in front who, some of them are even what they would call passing. They can pass for a different race, not just white or Caucasian. They can pass for another race, or they're mixed race, and because of that, they're very fair-skinned, and you'll always see them as like the main video girl for these music videos, and it was something to strive for. To even when it wasn't just the video vixens, it was then like new artists that was coming out. It seemed like it was more popular for them to promote a more fair-skinned artist, even if they were female or male, over a dark-skinned artist. And this is with any race. If it was more fair-skinned, more what they feel was like the ideal look, then they were like, yeah, this is who we're going to push to the front. And I felt like that boosted a lot of people's careers, and people who worked hard who probably had way better theatrics on screen because their skin was a little darker, or their hair texture, or they wouldn't wear their hair a certain way. It just X'd them out because they wasn't fitting into the mode of what was media. And predominantly a lot of things that I saw on like BET was really promoting a lot of fair-skinned women as like the main video girls, from like Snoop Dogg's videos to like Chris Brown videos to anyone I've seen on there, even like R. Kelly videos back in the day. And I know R. Kelly's a sensitive subject in itself, but it was a lot of videos where they predominantly leaned towards the lighter, fair-skinned models or background dancers or whoever they were. They got the forefront. And so it subconsciously gave people who were young, and I was young at that time, elementary, middle school, who come home to turn on the TV, and the first thing you see is someone fair-skinned and their hair is straightened and it's long, or they have extensions, and you feel like that's the ideal, that's the look I have to go for, a more European look within our own society, our own culture. It's being pushed on us like that's what's beautiful. Yes, this is beautiful too, but this is what you should strive for. That's what came across to me. Like, I gotta look like the Sierras and the Aaliyahs and the Beyoncés. You gotta look like the more fair-skinned women in the industry if you want to be one of the big name brands like the Ashantis or the Keisha Coles. Even if you want to be just a video vixen, you want to look more like the Amber Roses, and the people who were more fair-skinned that were getting center stage. And you didn't even know what they did, but they had very, very popular dark-skinned females who got roles, but somehow if there was a light-skinned female in there, they always became second or third. And they had some that, I believe her name is Onyx. She is actually one of the girls who were in one of Pharrell's videos I forget the name of the song, but it was her, Lauren London, and actually Mimi Foss, who is another producer's Stevie J's mother of one of his younger children, and she was one of the darker ones in there, and I think she was the one that was predominantly with Pharrell Williams as his main leading lady in the film or inside that music video. And she also has a child with Nick Cannon, but she's a dark-skinned woman. I think her name is Onyx. And seeing her, I was like, oh, she's beautiful. She reminded me of the girl from The Bronx Tales. And I was like, that beautiful dark melanin skin, it just looks so flawless. And it doesn't get enough recognition in not even just the industry, but in film, where they're not being portrayed as like a slave or like the lesser than or the secondary or some type of subordinate in a role. A lot of the times they would be. Even in music videos, they're like the one getting dissed or the one that's being left behind or the one that's being passed up for a fair-skinned person. And without it being understood as a kid, just watching that, you're thinking, I gotta look like that because that's what they're showing me. Look, she got the guy. I have to look like the fair-skinned one. And being light-skinned myself, I'm thinking, okay, so I already have the skin. What else am I supposed to do? Now what am I supposed to do with the skin? Because I didn't realize my skin color made a difference between mine and a darker person until it started being pointed out to me. My family never told me like, hey, you're light-skinned, so you run around like this. No. There was no colorism being taught to me. We were taught not to see color. So when you're being shown color in all the other aspects outside of the home, especially in things that are supposed to be made for you to like have a sense of awareness, for BET it's supposed to have been like black entertainment television. So it's like other black people you can relate to. But then when they're showing colorism within their own system, you're like, okay, so we're not too far ahead of the game either because we're colorism in ourselves. Those type of things did play a big role for me growing up. And that's where I kind of first saw that was actually exposed to me more so from black culture than it was from other races.
I can agree with you on that 100%. I know for me, when I got exposed to it, I have an older sister who's 14 years older than me. So for me, I got exposed to it by watching Different World and The Cosby Show. And just about, I would say 10 years ago, my big sister put me on to the movie School Days, and I saw a beautiful segment by Spike Lee, who did a Good and Bad Hair. And it's a very powerful segment because Tisha Campbell's in it, and Jasmine Guy's in it, and some other women that are in there, Spike Lee's sisters in it, but she plays one of the more brown-skinned chocolate women, Lawrence Tate. No, I'm sorry, Lawrence Fishburne, not Lawrence Tate, but Lawrence Fishburne is in the movie. And it's some really heavy hitters in the movie, and it came out in the 80s, but they do this Good and Bad Hair segment. For those who don't know, who are younger, who don't know about School Days, please watch it. It's a fantastic movie. And for those who do know about it, you know what I'm talking about. And they call each other, very stereotypical racial names like Pickaninny, Jigaboo, all these things. But the thing is, these names that they call each other, black women calling each other based on skin tone, stems from slavery. And, again, you don't realize it when you're young, but as you get older, you mature, you do research, you learn your history, all of the colorism that has been brought within our community stems back from slavery when we were forced to come to this country. And of course, if you're mixing with the master due to being forced, the slave woman being forced to mix with the master, and they have mulatto children, then of course, at that time, the lighter you are, the better you are. If you have more kinkier, more curlier, straighter hair, the more attractive you are. So that stigma that has been forced upon us, and that we, as we move forward and got out of slavery, we slowly internalized it. And then we started subconsciously, light skin, dark skin, you're better, you're this and that. The darker you are, you're unattractive. The lighter you are, you're better. All these false narratives of how we saw each other has played big into music videos as well as TV shows and movies. So again, with School Days, they played on that, and it was very, very interesting. And again, with Different World, you could know most of the lead characters were fair skinned or mixed Black women, like Jasmine Guy. Yeah, she's mixed. Cree Summer, she's mixed. Lisa Bonet, who she was there on the first season of Different World, is mixed. And they were the main women or love interests or things like that. So I find it very interesting how, how society, how we as Black culture have grasped onto this, and we make jokes about it and all those things. But I personally don't find it funny. Personally, me being a more caramel complected a woman, but the hurt that was really poisoned upon us because of what slavery had brought onto us. And so that's why I feel like a lot of us who still talk that way or call each other light skin, dark skin, and laugh about it, it's to be, in my opinion, is a slave mentality. You're still on a plantation in your mind. You don't realize it because, those things should not be even talked about. Like, as me not only being an award-winning filmmaker outside of teaching, I try to teach my students, of all skin tones, the darker you are, you're still beautiful. You are beautiful. If you're light, you're beautiful. If you're a shade in between, you're beautiful. And I actually did an experiment in class this past semester with my fifth grade students who are now going into sixth grade. But I did a colorism experiment with them, and I had them all stand up, and I had the light skinned children go on this side and the more brown skinned children, and I gave them a backstory before we even did the experiment, and the emotion and what they felt and what they started to understand and the conversations that we had was powerful, because then I was trying to tell them, I don't want to hear this conversation in the classroom amongst each other. Let's be better in this classroom and outside, because they didn't know the stigma, the deep rooted issues of what colorism has brought into our culture, in the Black culture, and just other cultures in general, because it's not just an African American thing. This is the Latino community as well as the Asian community. They have stigma from colorism. So, and of course, as you said, Ash, it goes into the film industry as well, of like the more chocolate skinned men with more lighter skinned women, or they'll leave. I think of this particular scene from the movie or TV show Power, the first season, when of course you have Naturi, who is a beautiful chocolate woman who unfortunately her husband is cheating on her, but he steps out on a more fair-skinned woman. So you have all these different complexities and layers that go into colorism in the industry, and then of course outside of the industry, if that makes sense.
Yes, it definitely does, because that plays into that whole thing where the colorism isn't just portrayed in the movies and in the music videos. It becomes a part of the entertainers' lives that they're displaying. More so, it's been a recent topic that gets touched on here and there when Black men become successful and they gain a white wife or a fair-skinned wife or a wife of a certain descent that's fair-skinned, and they feel like that's the successful pinnacle when you have that fair-skinned wife or a white wife saying, like, I have made it to a level of success that is only shown by having this particular trophy of having a fair-skinned wife or a white wife, versus the Black women they were dealing with, or more darker-skinned women they were dealing with in the past. If you're still with a woman with darker skin, was kind of looked at like you haven't made it to that certain pinnacle. And a lot of successful men have left women that have been with them before their name was spoken outside of their homes, outside of their hometowns, not even known even in their own home streets. And then the moment they reach a certain level, they get with a woman who looks the complete 360 from the woman who was there during the building of the backbone. And then they finally feel like they made it, and they get to that certain pinnacle where they start seeking for a certain type of look in the women that they have around them. And that has been seen a lot in the industry, not just music, not just film. from politics on down. Anything where your face is out there in the media, it has been seen. And you'll see it also with some women who make it successful when they do the switch up of the race. But it is more predominant with men, especially with certain black men in certain parts of the industry. It plays into that colorism. How can you be promoting security in your own race and culture, and then you turn around and you do something like this? If I was a young black woman in today's society, like a teenager age or younger, coming into puberty, that would not make me feel that secure in being a young black woman or about to become a young black woman. If I was approaching adulthood, I would be like, oh wow, to have a successful man, especially if I wanted one of color, he wouldn't even want me because I'm a woman of color, and that's not what they desire when they reach a certain pinnacle. I'm not even in that realm for them. I'm not considered good enough at that point, is what they portray, which isn't okay because it gives, in today's society, a lot of that Gen Z, they're big on how you make them feel, and they speak out about it. If they feel wrong, they're going to say it. If they feel like what you're doing is overstepping boundaries, they're going to say it. Versus previous generations, being a millennial, we were taught more to listen than to speak, and to speak when you only to speak when you're spoken to. More so because we were raised by a more strong hand generation, and the generations before us, their voices was a little less and less. Our voices are getting more broad by the generation. And so looking at colorism in entertainment industry, it just, for me, promotes a lot of self-dislike, self-disrespect, and it doesn't promote any type of harmony or welcoming to say like, hey, we're a community here. We're not just entertainers, but, you know, yes, we have multiple different cultures. We come from different backgrounds. Some of us are mixed. Some of us are just either black or white. But we're all in the industry together, and there's some harmony there. It is very broad and very in your face, the colorism, still to this day, even with the current generations like demanding clarity on a lot of this stuff, which I do like that about the Gen Zers. They demand clarity on something versus going, well, let me see how this plays out. They're like, so you're doing that because of what? Explain yourself. Or we'll just cancel you until you come up with a reasonable reason to do what you're doing, which is appreciated because they definitely have no problem speaking their mind. And the millennials do not as well, but we do come from a background of think before you speak. So, versus a lot of the generation after us, they will talk, and land themselves into a couple places where they're writing checks that their butts can't cash. And is a big difference between millennials and obviously the generations after us, Generation Alpha, Generation Gen Z. But colorism does play a big part in the industry. Even from YouTube to TikTok, Instagram, you will see influencers who are more fair-skinned have a better success rate than ones with more melanin to their skin. Almost like there's an algorithm for that. And it's insane because people are posting their own content. So there is someone programming this colorism even today into today's version of media. Back in my day, it was BET, TRL, and things like I did watch different world growing up. There, even from things like Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, there was colorism in all these different shows. And now on social media is a bigger platform. We have all these different versions of streaming, and they're what's taking even from like Twitch and all those different platforms you can use to stream yourself on. You see more. I can name more people who are streamers that are fair skinned than I can that are dark skinned, based off of just how they were able to populate. And I can honestly say that their content isn't something that's very memorable, but they're shown to me so much, I know who they are. Their work is not known to me. I just see their face a lot because it's generated over and over again on my different timelines. And the ones who I do seem have more interest in what they're doing had to be the more melanated group of people, but I'm not seeing them unless I'm searching for them. They're not popping up as frequent, so it does seem to me like there is a certain colorism algorithm, even to today's social media, that plays a role. And even in the film industry, you see so many leading roles going to fair skinned or white descent people, and ones with melanin skin, they're playing such great roles, but they're not the forefront. They're the better actor. That's who you're drawn to inside of the movies or inside of the music videos. Even now, a lot of music videos are pretty much predominantly like YouTube or on Apple or Spotify or however you watch your music videos these days. They still have, when they have other people in the background, or it's like playing the best friend, whatever their role is, it's a lot of fair-skinned people going around. And I have been seeing more integrated melanin people in a lot of these videos, which is greatly appreciated because not everyone looks like the person you're putting in the center stage. A lot of people may look more like the melanated character. And then to shine some light on that, so people with melanin to their skin who's a little darker can be like, hey, that could be me. I can succeed. My skin is not a barrier. My skin is not an obstacle in the way. My skin does not, hinder me in any sense. And I think that's such a huge thing, especially with entertainment, is showing that colorism shouldn't hinder you, but it seems to be the opposite. The entertainment industry seems to promote colorism. Even though to this day it might be a little less, it's a little more open, but they definitely do promote it a little bit more, or they let people get away with saying negative things about darker skin tones in the industry, especially if it's a fair-skinned person saying it. They kind of sweep it a little under the rug and just let things play themselves out, and that's not okay, because that's letting colorism thrive. And as a filmmaker, I know you can kind of get that sense, and you've done work that touched on, different things about culture. So, sis, from your point of view, how have you seen colorism play out?
Yeah, for me, how I see colorism play out is in the film industry aspect of it. I see more melanated, more chocolate men and women getting into these lead roles. But the thing is, what I'm also seeing is, again, stereotypical characters. Okay. So I think of one of my favorite shows, many favorite shows, that unfortunately is no longer on streaming anymore. They canceled it, was Harlem. For those who don't know, I think Harlem was aired on Stars. A great show. You can also stream it. And it was just a really great show with Megan Good. And I forgot the young lady's name who was in Empire, but she was in it, and two other women. And again, we have more. Three of the women were more fair skinned, caramel complected, and then we had the fourth woman who was a beautiful dark chocolate, and her character was great. The thing though is, her character to me was very overly sexualized and very loud, and again, how society and sometimes how our own culture sees more darker hue black women as loud and overly sexualized or things like that, while the other women were more of a caramel and light skin complexion, and they weren't really coming off that way. They kind of did, but not so much. And again, the main character, the story really evolved around, even though they're all friends in the sisterhood, the main character and storyline was really Megan Good. So, that's just one of the many other shows I've seen. Again, I love the show. I mean, I wish it would continue, but the industry does things, and shows are great and then it cuts off, so we can't argue with that. But there are other shows and movies I've seen where, again, you have a beautiful rainbow of different women of color, but the more chocolate one really is never the main focal point. She's, again, the friend. She has a couple lines, or the other sister, or whatever, while the more caramel complected, fair skinned women are more, the love interests are more in the forefront. So I feel like we're slowly getting better, and I say that very loosely, getting better. But then again, you always question when our own people, our own filmmakers and directors and producers are also typecasting, or they're also playing into the stereotype and having, written characters, but they're purposely casting a certain complexion to play a more stereotypical role. I think of the movie NWA. I'm sorry, Straight Outta Compton. I don't know why I don't know why I've always called it NWA. The movie Straight Outta Compton that was about NWA. I just remember when the audition process was going on, because I was hearing through the grapevine, the people I know who were a part of that, how, they were really big on casting, certain women of color, certain black, like light, I believe it was like more light skinned women they wanted for a certain thing. And then more of the dark skinned women, I don't think they even wanted. I don't think they wanted any dark skinned women. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what it was. And I remember kind of hearing the controversy going around, like, you only want like fair-skinned black women to be a part of this movie. And so you see elements of that again when our own people are sometimes behind the cameras. We are still giving into the stereotypes of how we are seen. If you're lighter, you are supposed to be more educated and prettier and, more together and more sophisticated. And I'm doing air quotes because that's not what it should just be focused on. And if you're more chocolate and browner, you're supposed to be loud and struggling. It's just all these false narratives of how society and sometimes our own people see ourselves within the film industry. And that's why we need to really analyze that and get off the plantation in our mind and realize, look, all shades are beautiful. Let's start casting all shades in different lights. And that's why I'm really a fan of this one TV show. It's called Matlock, and Kathy Bates is in it. But the main character, one of the main characters, is a lawyer, and she's a black woman, and she's a beautiful chocolate, and she is like one of the lead characters, and I'm so happy about that. And so you're starting to see more of the brown skinned women in these lead characters, and they're playing really dope boss chick roles. And I'm so here for that. And so that's why I said it's loosely happening in the industry. And with my documentary, we kind of talk about that. And about the Ash. I mean, you was in it, so we talk about it. But so I say with that, it's a slow progress. But we as Black filmmakers also, I feel like, need to do a better job in not always putting stereotypical roles within our own community based off of colorism and shades and things like that. That's what I would say for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I also have frequently watched the show Matlock, and that is a very beautiful actress that plays that role. They do have her as the wife of a successful white man who comes from a line of successful lawyers and who runs like a very successful pharmaceutical business. But they do not make it seem like her success comes from that marriage. She's successful amongst her own, just foundings on her own. She came in as a very powerful house on her own. Another show that I do watch, which I have just recently got into this year, and I apologize for people who love the show for not being into it sooner. I'm just not a huge TV buff on certain things. I'm one of those true crime people, so yeah, I'll eat ice cream and watch real murders, but can't watch a scary movie. I'm one of those people. So I can't watch a scary movie, but I can watch real crimes. But the show by Tyler Perry's sisters, it's a cast of all beautiful Black women, but the more successful ones are the fair-skinned women. He has two. One is a successful lawyer, and the other one's like her paralegal. They're fair-skinned. Then you have the one that they have, like the loud, crazy friend who works at the airport as a gate agent. She's more melanated, and she just has she just keeps having bad luck for some reason. They all seem to have bad luck, but for some reason her luck is just way different than everyone else's. And she is partnered up a lot with a white counterpart as a male that she keeps going back and forth with in a relationship. But the one who has the most success financially is a lighter-skinned black woman, and her assistant is a light-skinned black woman who has a very successful relationship with someone who just happened to be the ex of her boss's, one of her boss's close friends that no one knew about because they met at chance encounter. And the best friend is a dark-skinned woman who owns a salon, and her salon burns down. All kinds of things is just going bad for her. And during their relationship, it was very toxic, and he just wasn't faithful. Then he gets in a relationship with a more fair-skinned woman, and somehow, some way, she just gets him differently, and everything he did wrong in that relationship, he's the man that she wanted, but for someone else. And he's just had to be that for the fair-skinned woman, which is insane in its own attributes, because she wasn't a bad woman. It's not like, she was someone who, okay, she had it coming to her. No. She's a very decent woman, owns her own business, held him down, but for some reason he just couldn't be there for her like that. Gets with another woman, everything from the house, the car, to the dog. Everything she wanted, he gets for her. Even the way he listens to her is different. She can calm him down in ways and get him to be understanding in ways he wouldn't be for his ex, who he's, by the way, about to have a baby with whenever they finally pop that baby out. And then they made her situation even crazier as a dark-skinned woman in the industry. Not only is she pregnant by her ex who's moved on and won't come back, and she's really pining for, they have her meet a very decent guy who really loves her, who's also fair-skinned, but she can't allow herself to be loved by him because she wants the bad guy for her, the guy that's not good for her. She ends up sleeping with him and has that one chance in encounter, very rare incidents where she's pregnant with twins and one belongs to each guy. They have her struggling left and right in this show, and she's dark-skinned. She's struggling with her emotions, her love life, her business. Everything is just up in shambles. She doesn't know what she wants to do with herself. But even though the lighter-skinned women are having issues too, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel for them, which is insanity. Because I'm like, wow, okay. But the dark-skinned women, they're being beat down. There's another dark-skinned woman in the show, and she was falsely accused of something and was put in jail for falsely being accused of setting up a bank robbery at the bank she managed. And it just seemed like the darker skinned women, their trials and tribulations are so much more severe and harder to get out of than their fair skinned counterparts. And I paid attention to that because I'm like, okay, yes, this is a good show, but how come everyone that's a little darker struggles a little harder than everyone else's? Like, they're literally fighting tooth and nail through the grit, trying to just get their head above water. They're struggling to breathe. They're being suffocated every time you turn this show on. And then everyone else is fair skinned, just breezing on by, having a good merry old time. Yeah, it's hard today, but we'll get through. There's like light at the end of their tunnel. They have endless resources to make their situation better. And to me, that's a bad portrayal. It's an amazing show. Tyler Perry is an amazing creator. But I wish that wasn't the case. And yes, the actresses play their role very, very well. The actress who plays the impregnated woman with twins by two different men also played in the show that he made for Netflix, the 6888, as the main leading character, who joined the army and really didn't know what she was getting herself into. So she's an amazing actress. So she takes this role very well. But I just hate to see people of darker skin seem to always get like a short stick in these kind of situations. And I know they're supposed to obviously get better, but it's like, do we have to drag them through the mud every time they get in a good show where they're being put in the spotlight? When they're being put in the spotlight, it's always putting the spotlight on their struggle. It's never saying, hey, they had a good year. It's always a little rougher for them. And that's reoccurring. I think there's only maybe one or two movies where someone of darker melanin skin did not have that much of an issue as a more fair-skinned person. In the movie, one movie that can only come to mind for me is Wait and Exhale, where some of the characters in there that were more fair-skinned had a little tougher time than the one who was of darker melanin. Than Loretta Devine's character, she was the most chocolate out of the group of her friends, and she had the least struggle in that movie, and I appreciated that because I'm like, okay, this movie is not like all the others where it's like, yeah, they're all black, but the one that's darker is just, her struggle's gonna be harder just off top. No, it actually was a little, it was more spread out, but it definitely played out more towards Angela Bassett's character or Whitney Houston's character, and then there's another lady in there, I'm sorry, I forget her name, but they had a harder time than her, and they were more fair-skinned than she was. And I was like, I can appreciate she got the break in the movie, and she was the one with the dark skin. I appreciate that. I have not seen a movie like that where they get the break out of everyone. Not even for the movie Four Color Girls. Loretta Devine in there, she had it rough throughout there, and then a lot of the fair-skinned women did have their issues, but you had people like Elise, forget her last name, Kimberly Elise, who had, she was more dark skinned compared to some of the other main women in there, like Janet Jackson, and I think it's Thandie Newton, and so their characters just had struggles. But she had the worst. She was darker than them, and she had the worst by her children being taken from her in a very horrible way by their father. And it just shows like, wow, everyone had something going on that was horrible, and then you guys just had to take the cake by making her day just the worst one out of everyone's, because everyone's day went bad in the same day, but hers just took the cake. And I just felt like, wow, why couldn't be a different narrative for our more dark skin, our chocolate sisters out there? Give them a break. Stop trying to make it seem like because their skin is dark, it comes with struggle. It does not always come with struggle. It doesn't matter if you're fair skinned, you have struggles too. Being more on the lighter side doesn't mean that it's a brighter side for life. And that definitely needs to be talked about, needs to be addressed. Being brighter doesn't make life brighter. And having darker skin doesn't make life darker for you. And I hate that narrative because you're putting that into these young kids' minds. And you as an educator, I know you can see that. Like, when everything is being popularized as if you're more fair-skinned, that's the go-to. And people are leaning towards that. It's like, oh, wow. So if I have dark skin, I'm already halfway out the door because of my skin. So now if I don't have an amazing personality or I don't work 10 times harder than the brighter skinned person, I might as well just not even try. And that right there is a narrative that definitely needs to be demolished. For you, sis, how do you feel as an educator knowing that this is the narrative that's always been played out, especially for us American black culture?
Well, I would say for me, and it's a very complex situation because there's colorism in the school system, in education, and that's going to be a whole nother topic. Okay, that's gonna we can't even really immerse on that, but there is.
That goes down that path.
Right. And I would say when it comes to the classroom and the stigma of, when you're teaching general ed, you're teaching elementary school kids, preferably fifth grade, they're kids. We all were 10 and 11 once in our lifetime. So, you say things and you don't really know the meaning of it. But then when it comes to skin tone, I don't know why our kids want to attack each other's complexion at a young age. For one, it starts at home. Let's be real. If they're hearing it at home and it's not being handled at home, they're going to bring it into the classroom, because the first place any child is learning life from is from home. I'm not a mother yet, but let's be real. Every child learns everything from home, and then they bring what they learn into public places, school, work, and whatnot. And
Absolutely.
so when you're hearing these comments of your mama this, your mama so black, all these things, and just saying these really crass comments to one another, and you're 10 and 11, but you're struggling, and you're a low reader and you're a low writer, and it's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So, this is when we have to go back and rethink how, as educators, we are coming into the classroom, and how we're teaching these kids, and how we're changing the stereotypes and the narrative of how we see ourselves and how they see each other. That's what I try to bring into the classroom, because these conversations, again, they're jokingly about it, ha ha he and what they see on social media. But if their own parents aren't really addressing it, and if they're just letting it slide by, then this is when it becomes a common thing. And then you're not realizing you are literally hurting yourself, as well as some of your peers who may be of a chocolate hue or a lighter hue, and then you don't know, they may have low self-esteem, and now you said something, and they don't know how to respond to it yet, and now they're struggling with issues, and things can go left, because we know kids are mean. We all have dealt with that in our younger years. So when it comes to colorism, it has to be addressed. It has to be talked about. It has to be deeply analyzed. And I know in elementary school you can't go deep and heavy with it, because their little brains are still learning, absorbing. But when you get to the middle school and high school level, oh, you can go deep with it, especially with high school. I taught high school for a bit, so you can definitely go deep in that. And then when you get to college, it's game over. Let's really dig deep in there. So colorism within the education system, within the classroom, depending on the teacher you get. Okay, I'm gonna be real. I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm one of the rare gems of teachers who comes with it, who keeps it 100 with my students, and I give it to them straight, no chaser. Okay, like, I really give it to them because I believe in them, but I got to let them know what's up and what they're prepared for in the future, or what they're trying to be prepared for in the future. So when you have teachers who are not just glazing over the text in the books, textbooks, and you're not just sugarcoating the conversation, but we flipping through these pages, page 29, this paragraph, let's talk about it, let's dissect this, and let's go deep with it, and let's go off topic, let's have a discussion. When you do that, then that's when the kids get excited, because that's when my kids are always like, oh, tell us more, let's go off lesson, because they're getting the grit of what can help them as young black boys and girls, and also brown and black students. And that's important, because, again, like I said before I got into this segment, that colorism is very much in the education, and we may not see it, but oh, it is there. And I think we're going to have to continue that part in future episodes when it comes to colorism in education, because it is very prominent and things like that. So I would say, in regards to the system and how, again, we see ourselves, we as a people of color have to do better in analyzing how we approach and say these things, and how we laugh and make comments about these things, because you never know what that adult, who may be a grown man or woman, had to deal with self-esteem as a younger year, when they're younger, and it still may be a trigger. And going back to what you said about Sisters, yes, I do watch that show. I don't like to admit it, but I do. So I do watch Sisters, and I'm a film person, so I'm very what's the word? I critique, even harder on one of our folks, because, again, a lot of us like to stay in the stereotype of who people think we are. And I'm big on changing the narrative of that. And I do agree with you, sis, when you said earlier, why is it always a struggle? Why that, the darker you are, it doesn't have to be dark. You don't have to, if you're a dark skin, you don't have to be going through so much, oh, I got so much burdens on my back. No, it's like, can we all be in the light every now and then, or consistently? So again, this is when we, as people of color, as filmmakers, as musicians, as anybody in any industry, doesn't have to be exactly film and music, but anybody in industry, how we see ourselves, and we have to change the narrative. We also not just talk it, but we got to live it. We have to live it as well. And so that is the mindset that we have to move forward with when it comes to colorism and it comes to, the life that we live, because society has always put a label on us, preferably European society, because when we were enslaved, a label was given to us. But and at that time period, we couldn't do anything about it. So I don't fault our ancestors in those 400 years of what they went through, but it's the post slavery. What have we done internally? Why are we constantly saying the N word? That goes into color. I mean, it's so much we could break down when it comes to colorism and how we see each other. But we're going to have to say that for another episode, because we'll be here until 5 o'clock in the morning.
We'll be here until Black History Month talking about this.
Period. Of next year. Still talking about this. Okay. So, I would say, kind of to start closing this out, is that when it comes to colorism, we have to not just skim this over like it's no big deal.
Exactly.
We have to catch it. We have to dissect it. We have to analyze it, and we have to change it. We have to change how we see ourselves, how we see other people, and change our conversation when it comes to that. We can't just find an oh, ha, ha, he every time, and yet you don't know you're damaging yourself even more and the people around you and the next generation that's coming and looking at us. We have to fix it. We have to start with us, our people, our culture, so we can be better, so we cannot just make fun of or just run over what our ancestors went through. That was travesty. That was tragic. That was so hard. That is a blessing that this generation and the generation before us didn't have to go through, and the generation underneath us. So we can't be ignorant with it. And I think a lot of us are ignorant, unfortunately, or subconsciously ignorant about it. But we have to not be. We have to catch it, check people respectfully when we hear conversations like that, so we can be better.
Exactly.
And that's all I got to say about that for this topic for tonight.
We're not 100% free yet, but it's okay for us to start benefiting from the freedoms we do have, especially as Black people, and we have to understand that. And using colorism in our own work is really telling them what you set me free for. At that point, from my point of view. Why be set free if you're going to enslave your own mind? And if you're going to be the own person's, if you're going to be setting the stereotypes yourself, why are we free at that point? We were set free.
Say that.
We were set free to be free, and then we locked our minds up by saying, okay, yes, we're free. But if you're a light-skinned Black person, you have a better chance versus a dark-skinned Black person, because you can pass for something else and the world will let you have a little bit more opportunities. When are we going to say, at the end of the day, we're all Black, and we're going to provide those opportunities to each other. We're going to support each other. If they don't open the door for you, I'm going to tear it down with you. Let's go to the back door. I'll go to the back door with you, and we're going to bust in that, and we go get in there, and we're going to demand our respect. Demand the respect.
Period.
Stop looking at the differences and going, okay, I'm dark-skinned. That's why I didn't get it. I'm dark-skinned. That's why I had the more struggles. Because we put that into our narratives in the industry, and we start feeding that into our lives. Well, all the movies and stuff I see never show Black people doing well if they're dark-skinned. So I'm not going to do well because they never show us being successful or being great. If we do, it's like a 1 in 1,000 chance. Or like, oh, am I that 1 in 1,000? I doubt I am. And I have a lot of family members who are dark-skinned, and I would hate for them to ever feel or come to me and tell me they feel less than because they're dark-skinned, and they feel like I have greater chances because I'm light-skinned. At the end of the day, we're all Black. We have to love each other. We have to support each other. If someone feels like, because I had a friend who is darker than I am. She's not super dark-skinned, but she's darker. I'm fair-skinned compared to her, and she told me once, on one of her drunken nights. She like had one of those drunk men tell no tales. She was like, yeah, you have the skin color and the hair color and stuff that I always wanted. You're like the ideal look of a light-skinned black person. I want to be a light-skinned black person. I was like, girl, calm down. What is, are you okay? Drink some water. Sober up. And it was sobering to me, for my, like, humbling to my life to hear. I've never been told that. Someone telling me, you're the ideal of what someone wants to be. If they're going to be, we have to be black, we'd rather be that. From a dark-skinned person to tell me, if I have to be black, I'd rather look like you so I can get through being black, was so hurtful and humbling at the same time, because I'm like, wow, you feel like it's so hard to be black that if you gotta do it, at least let you be light-skinned black so it could be as easy as possible, because being dark-skinned black is so hard compared to being any other version of melanin. And I'm like, this is insanity. Like, is that what's really going on in the world? If you're more melanated, these are some of the thoughts that are being thought of. Because I'm on the fair-skinned side, I've always looked at it as like there's no color there. We're black, we're black. You're Asian, whatever, you're mixed, you're mixed. I didn't see the color, but it is taught so much to darker, melanated brothers and sisters that your struggle is going to be harder because your skin is darker. You don't get a pass because you're darker. People are going to be less understanding to you because you're darker. You're going to have less opportunities. You're going to have to work harder to get through that same door, even the same door as your light-skinned counterparts. And that right there is where I'm going to leave it until next time, because that we can dive deep into this. At the end of the day, colorism needs to go. We need to have self-awareness, self-love, self-respect, and support each other, especially our dark-skinned brothers and sisters, and take some of that burden off, that narrative that their struggle is darker because their skin is darker. It is not. Actually, it's more beautiful than anything else out there. You guys are the foundation. Just know that.
Yes, and all shades are beautiful. Self-love is real, and we as a community need to stand behind each other and not be separate from each other. So just more unity, more love, and more uplifting of all shades of brown, because everyone from the light to the light, dark to the dark, and all of us in between are beautiful. Peace and love, everyone. Thank you for listening to another episode, Don't Trip Sis. We will see you next time.
Until next time.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Don't Trip Sis. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, there is power in our mind, unity, and culture. If we understand that power, we will be limitless. Stay blessed, y'all.